But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Genesis 2 verse 17. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Of the name of this tree, and the reasons of it, see on Genesis 2 verse 9. Thou shalt not eat of it. Not that this tree had any efficacy in it to increase knowledge, and improve in science and understanding, as Satan suggested God knew, and therefore forbid the eating of it out of envy to man, which the divine being is capable of, or that there was anything hurtful in it to the bodies of men, if they had eaten of it, or that it was unlawful and evil of itself, if it had not been expressly prohibited, but it was, previous to this injunction, a quite indifferent thing whether man ate of it or not, and therefore was pitched upon as a trial of man's obedience to God, under whose government he was, and whom it was fit he should obey in all things, and since he had a grant of all the trees of the garden but this, it was the greater aggravation of his offense that he should not abstain from it. For in the day thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Or in dying, die, which denotes the certainty of it, as our version expresses it, and may have regard to more deaths than one, not only a corporeal one, which in some sense immediately took place. Man became at once a mortal creature, who otherwise continuing in a state of innocence, and by eating of the tree of life, he was allowed to do, would have lived an immortal life, of the eating of which tree, by sinning he was debarred, his natural life not now to be continued long, at least not for ever. He was immediately arraigned, tried, and condemned to death, was found guilty of it, and became obnoxious to it, and death at once began to work in him. Sin sowed the seeds of it in his body, and a train of miseries, afflictions, and diseases, began to appear, which at length issued in death. Moreover, a spiritual or moral death immediately ensued. He lost his original righteousness, in which he was created, the image of God in him was deformed, the powers and faculties of his soul were corrupted, and he became dead in sins and trespasses, the consequence of which, had it not been for the interposition of a surety and Saviour, who engaged to make satisfaction to law and justice, must have been eternal death, or an everlasting separation from God, to him and all his posterity, for the wages of sin is death, even death eternal, Romans 6 verse 23. So the Jews interpret this of death, both in this world and in the world to come.